probably 4 or 5 more days. It's a tough one.
Oh, I haven't heard that one for a while, Mike.
Did you see your email?
I'd listened to it, and I said I wasn't.
Look at your email.
There was a couple of things that didn't come out quite the way it was in my head.
I thought you all did.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Broderick. Good.
Yeah, this is a little.
So you're.
Adam, we good to go?
You work with.
Are we not gonna see Carolyn and Jake tonight?
Do you know any other franchises that are zero?
I think
Oh,
they're
am I sitting
coming.
in?
I'm the CEO for.
Oh, this is Carolyn's, that's why.
You know Craig down there?
You said there'd be no math.
Did she proxy you or give you the?
Yeah, we look so much alike, no one can tell the difference.
Craig's in Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah, we might get through the agenda, you know?
Oh, did you really? Years ago. Yeah, I've not been to his house, but I've been, you know, Steve Colton.
Fewer people. Yeah.
I've been to Steve.
Give me the green light when we're ready. We're good? I have almost, give me your cue. When it's 5:15.
Ready, set.
So Officer Clegg, could you, when we get ready to go, would you lead us? So Officer Clegg, could you, when we get ready to go, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Sure. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. It's time. Okay, we're gonna get started. It's raining outside and we may have to go out and build an ark before it's over tonight. It seems like it's coming out pretty good, so. I'm Mayor Acerson, and we welcome you to our city council meeting this evening. An invocation will be offered by Council Member Randy Powell, after which Officer Clegg will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we gather together as citizens and concerned individuals for the city of Lindon to give thanks unto Thee for the blessings of being in this community. We are most grateful for this moisture that we are receiving, Father. And we pray that we'll be wise stewards with the water that is within our city, and that we will use it appropriately in a way that would be beneficial. We're grateful for the service of those who protect us here in this city. We ask for a blessing upon them, that they might be able to be buoyed up and be able to be protected from harm or danger. We're grateful for the camaraderie we have as council member and mayor here in this city. We pray that we'll be able to move through this agenda in an appropriate way and be able to counsel with each other regarding the issues before us. We're grateful for citizens who have joined us this night, and we pray for them to be able to have an enriching experience and be able to return home at the appropriate time. And we say these things most humbly in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just a couple of notes real quick. The passing of Colin Powell, which has hit the media today. He was quite a statesman, and you know, some people would say he would have made a great president, or maybe he was the one individual that was unelected one of the best presidents we've ever had. So just a great individual that tried to move forward, served the country in many capacities. Also, just so you're aware, today is, this month, I got this little emblem. It's Cancer Awareness. Men, you need to make sure, those of you that are married, that your wife gets in and gets the appropriate checks, and do it in a very kind and loving and thoughtful way, because it's not it's not an easy thing to do, and sometimes somewhat challenging. But once we get in and get those examinations done, the probability of addressing those issues that come from cancer are a higher probability that they'll be just fine. So be supportive, be thoughtful, and be kind, okay? So let's go ahead and do a roll call. Mike, you want to start us off?
Yes, Mike Venturi here.
Dan Broderick present.
Jeff Acerson present.
Randy Powell, present.
Jake Hoyt, present.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and move to the approval of the minutes of October 4th, 2021.
I had a small little something in my council report. It just needed a little bit of clarification for the, regarding the Christmas lights, and I already sent a little something to Kathy so that she can change that for me.
Other suggestions or corrections? Okay, a motion to be in order.
I make a motion to approve the city council minutes of October 4th, 2021. I'll second that motion.
Okay.
It's Mike's.
Mike.
It's Mike's.
Motion by Van, second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. We have some presentations tonight.
Yes.
You lead out with that, Adam?
I am. We haven't done very many employee recognition awards during COVID and all of that, and so we were playing catch up a little bit and had 3 individuals that they've been nominated by their coworkers multiple times. We as department heads meet and review comments that are submitted when we receive these, and would like to recognize these 3 individuals. Let's start with Rebecca. So if I could, I'm going to read a few comments. Come on up here. You get to stand in front of everybody. So
This is a good thing.
this is a summary of a few of the things. Rebecca is our treasurer and HR specialist. She came, it's 11 months. She's kept us afloat in a lot of ways at our front staff area. She came in, and not long after, she started as our accounts payable clerk. Our utility clerk passed away, and she helped with all sorts of things with that. And then our treasurer, Donna, retired, and she got the job after we interviewed several good candidates. Rebecca rose to the top there. And so, and then at the same time, we were implementing a new time system, and it's been a pain. And she's been a champ to help us get through that and get it to where it's a manageable point. But I just want to read a couple comments that were submitted about her. Has smiled nearly every day, all the while under extreme pressure and difficult circumstances. Many challenges as she took over the job as at the most stressful times. She has stayed late, come in early. Another one, she often stays late and puts in her heart and soul into fulfilling her duties. She tries to make circumstances better in the future and understand why something occurs. So we're grateful that she is with us, and there's your $50 Amazon gift card. Thank you very much. Let's go with Tracy next. So. With Tracy, she is working over at our Recreation and Senior Center front desk there, and has been with us a long time. How many years? 6 years. So let me read a few things about Tracy that others have submitted. Tracy's always looking to help around the office. Happy team player, great at getting tasks completed, outstanding worker, volunteers with Little Miss Lindon to help in any way they can within events and programs. Always willing, going above and beyond, always a positive attitude, happy smile, makes everyone in the city feel welcomed. And this was a great comment. The thing I love most about Tracy is how personable she is with staff and customers. She can always find something in common with those she encounters. And then I liked hilarious and 99.9% of the time dancing. So some great comments from her coworkers. Tracy helps out with all sorts of events, the parade and recreation department issues and programs and sports, and she's just all over the map and a great team player. Thank you so much. Jamie,
Let's see the dance.
right? Jamie, can you come on up? Jamie Jensen has been at our senior center a couple of years, almost 2 years. And I was shocked at this number. Jamie was not asked to come up with a solution to our senior lunch program and created on her own initiative the drive-through that occurred. And what we found is several other senior centers during the COVID shutdown, they closed completely. And many of those seniors came here. We increased in numbers. You've got to tell me if this number is right. Heath gave me a number of 14,771 lunches that were handed out. Amazing. And let me read a couple things here. So Jamie figured out a system to provide seniors meals and donations over the pandemic. Many senior centers closed the doors and did not offer any services. Lindon was one of the few centers to provide ongoing assistance. Jamie handed out thousands of meals via drive-through in all weather conditions, contributed to our rec programs. She's added dozens of new and innovative after-school activities and summer camps at the community center. Another comment, she's gone above and beyond to get to know each senior and is working hard to create new programs for them to participate in. And during COVID, comment, I don't think anyone said she had to do it. It would have been easy to just cancel lunches altogether. She was instrumental in starting and keeping the senior curbside lunch program running during the COVID-19 crisis. She saw an opportunity to serve in her position in a unique way and helped dozens of seniors with lunches and companionship along the way. She even organized a drive-through concert at one point, so that was awesome. Jamie's also gone a little bit above and beyond and applied for a couple senior center grants, 2 years. Has received over $10,000 in facility enhancements that have been applied at the community center. And I even understand her and her husband came in after hours and were dismantling cabinets and helping put things in. Very vested in Lindon, and we're grateful for her efforts. Way to go. Thank you.
If I can just say just a couple of words. I've been around each of these individuals and just the attitude and the outreach that they do as the food train came through and meals were being handed out. I was so impressed that not only did they provide food, but they also, this social connection. The people would come up and names were shared and good to see you today. And, you know, that is probably even more important than the food that they receive. A lot of these seniors come through and they don't really have a lot of social interaction, especially during COVID. And so that was accommodated during this time. And it was very heartwarming, you know, and you all just have that great smile. Just keep it up. Smiles are, you know, just keep it up. Thank you. All right. Okay, now we're going to go to our great police force. We've got, I believe that's next. We're going to be swearing in a new officer.
Chief Brower, can you introduce Jeff for us?
Yeah, I'll put you right on
Here, just to get you on the video.
Okay. Mayor and council, this is Jeff Tracy. He's recently been hired. He started with us the end of last week. We're going to swear him in tonight. He comes with 16 years of experience through the county sheriff's office, also some time in Harriman. Big extensive background, got investigations, tactical, firearms, bomb squad, breaching. Professionally, comes to us with a lot of experience. We're excited to have him. And, I know him personally, know his integrity, and he'll be a good fit for what we need in Lindon. So we're going to swear him in unless you have any questions for him before that.
You know Garrett Dudson?
Very, very well.
So, Chief, I just want to make sure you have extended the same invite to him that we did during the dinner to all of your officers and when their spouses were there.
Oh, he knows. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Right now. No, His wife is one of our reserves, so Carol.
I think, Jeff, we'll have you come right up here with our city recorder, Kathy, and
Okay, go. Just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jeff Tracy,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Good. Congratulations. Very nice.
Chief, may I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Where does that leave us staffing-wise in the department?
That puts us at full staff.
Puts full staff.
For officers, yes. And why I've got your attention, if I can have Alicia Adams step up. Come on up. So this is Alicia Adams. She has been hired to take on Jen Wakeland's position as the executive assistant. So Alicia comes to us with extensive background as well through dispatch, supervision, victim advocate recently at UVU, ran that program, investigations experience. So she comes with some pretty good exposure and experience for us. So we're happy to have her. This is her family back here. That's Zach, Lucy, and Sam. We want to welcome her. If you have any questions from her, she can answer for herself.
Alicia
Adams.
Adams, I'm sorry.
So Chief, how'd you find her? I mean, did she reach out? Did you reach out?
Yeah, both.
You don't have to reveal secrets.
We had some great candidates, and thankfully Alicia, kind of came to the top of those with all of her background experience, and she'll hit the ground running, I have no doubt.
Okay.
And I
Well,
personally know her family, well, daughter, former Chief Adams, this is his sister-in-law.
Don't hold it against me. We're the fun Adams.
Your biceps aren't big enough, I believe it.
That's his brother, so.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you
Welcome,
joined our
welcome.
team.
Jen had some good things to say about you too, so that's impressive. She said you'll do even better than she did, which I don't know if that's possible, but she had some great things to say about you.
Okay, let's go ahead and start our council reports. Mike, do you want to start us?
Sure, thank you. Things are going well. We had a recent board meeting for the North Point Solid Waste Special Services District, business as usual. Oh, sorry. Let's do that. Yeah, we had a board meeting recently of the North Point Solid Waste Special Services District. Things are going well. The board's very active, and we are doing okay financially and everything else that I'm aware of. I did have the opportunity to call and speak with Tim Clyde on that piece of property along Fourth. He seems to have not remembered a lot of things that were discussed initially when the initial arrangements were made. We had a good talk. He had some astute observations about a few things. So what we've agreed to do was reconvene a meeting between Mike and myself and him and whoever else wants to come to remind one another of what we agreed on. And he did say that he intends on, in the not too distant future, cleaning that berm off and then putting a fence up there. But my understanding is there's more involved than just doing that. His hang-up seems to be something about a drainage, running a line that in his mind is very costly, and again, like some of the other issues we've had with other citizens about that, is just wants to understand why and what needs to be done if there's a less expensive solution. So, But he was very amenable, and so Tim's a friend, so I don't think there's going to be any issues. We'll get him back in and get working on that, so. We didn't have a DRC meeting this week. No one came in with any things to discuss, so I think all the projects that are on the docket are progressing well. And so with that, I think that's, oh, pardon me, there is one thing. I'm sure all of you got the invite to Scott Thompson's barbecue or whatever it's going to be this Thursday. Well, then never mind then.
About,
You know what? He did say he liked me better. I'm sure you're welcome. I think it went to the planning commission and I was CC'd.
gotcha.
But I'm more than confident that you're invited, and I'm sorry I brought it up. Okay then.
Ann?
Nothing to report for tonight.
Okay, Randy?
Not much to report, just grateful to see some of the weeds coming down off of, in front of the Norton property. It looks like they're mostly off, but we're heading in the right direction. Grateful for that. No really haven't had any meetings lately with any of the responsibilities I have, but I had a fun opportunity Saturday to find myself in Spanish Fork as they were switching out the plants and what they call a Adopt the Planters program that they have been doing for over 20 years. Was able to bump into right off the bat with Lizette, who's one of the main coordinators, and made new friends with Bill Bushman, who is the head of this department, and just finding out a lot of fun things about Adopt the Planters, and maybe like to see if we can do something like that in our fair city as we prepare for our Center Street improvements, and see if maybe we could do something along that line. They have, typically, they have 200 to 600 residents that come and help volunteer to help with the planters twice a year. So it's a great opportunity for citizens to get involved, and so I'm going to go down and visit with them and see what we can maybe do for our city. That's it. Thank you,
Great.
Mayor.
Thank you. Jake?
Had a quick conversation with Heath today, just wanted me to remind everyone of the trunk or treat. They are short of trunks, and so any businesses we know of that would want to participate there, they're actively looking. Had a chance to have lunch with the good chief over there. As most chiefs know, like Adam, even out in the private sector, hiring is such a difficult thing right now. For us to be fully staffed, I think we got to be one of the only police departments in the county and the state that is fully staffed. I think it's so impressive, and anyways, can't say enough good about our good chief. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. So Adam, administrator's report.
Yeah, just a couple quick items. With our next council meetings, November 1st and 15th, and then newsletter assignments. I think we've made some recent tweaks, right? So Mike and the mayor kind of swapped because your last month is coming up in December, Mayor.
Yeah, it is.
So, let's see, on the fall cleanup, just an FYI, so we got a call from Republic Services, who we've contracted with for a long time for our garbage waste management. They have a container shortage. And so they are all of their containers are out, and they don't expect they'll have more than 5 available on the dates that we need them in November. And they've ordered more, but all of the steel manufacturing that they're looking at is all delayed, like everything else in the economy, it seems like. So I'm just floating this. As we get a little closer, I'm hopeful that we'll have a few more dumpsters. We had 5 locations in the past, so we'd have a dumpster at each location. But what we've liked in the past is that they can have one available while they're dumping it, so somebody doesn't show up and there's no container there.
Adam, how seriously have we considered giving additional landfill passes, given the shortage of the containers around town?
Yeah, I have a note there that we may need to issue additional dump passes if we want to proceed. And so it would really just be getting the word out to the public that, yeah, we're going to issue one more.
That's the key thing.
And so as we get a little bit closer, we'll keep an eye on that, but just a heads up.
On that dump pass, is that on a calendar year, so it would expire in December anyway?
You know, that's a great question. I am not sure if it's fiscal year or calendar year. My gut is that it's fiscal year, but I could be wrong on that.
I've
So-
been getting them, and I'm pretty sure they're calendar.
Is it
year.
calendar year?
Calendar year as well.
Yeah, January to December,
Okay,
and you just come in at the first of the year, but
okay. And
You
it's
know,
2 per household, per utility
household,
account.
yeah.
And so,
Feeling what that is if that we needed to issue even more, as long as they were coming in for one at a time. If we're short on dumpsters and they're already going to expire at the end of the year.
well, they could come in and pick up their 2 if they haven't already got it.
Correct,
And then
but
we
if
would
somebody
issue
is.
an extra.
Yeah, as long as we're logging them, if people are needing additional, I would be okay with people getting them one at a time if they needed them, but
More than 3? Is that what you're saying?
potentially.
Oh, okay. What do you, what's
I'd at
everybody
least
else think
one,
about that?
One extra one for this cleanup, but if they need to, then they need to, I guess.
Does Republic have the ability to extend the dates and go a little longer if we don't have as many dumpsters?
I can
Maybe
ask.
start the 4th, maybe something to check into.
Okay,
Pleasant
Yeah.
Grove just canceled their fall cleanup completely. They just sent out a letter to all of their citizens just saying, hey, we're just gonna give out the dump passes because we don't think we're gonna get near enough containers, so they just sent out a letter
Well, there,
in Republic.
we have their containers then. If they,
Yeah.
PG isn't getting them, we ought to get them.
we've understood from Waste Management, they also are short, and so we don't have a lot of options there, it sounds like, in the market.
What were those dates again? I'm sorry, did I miss that?
November 11th through 22nd. And so I will ask on, make sure it's calendar year on passes and then on the additional extensions, so. And then, just an FYI, it was over I forget the exact number, it was over 300 views on the Meet the Candidates Night video on YouTube, which is healthy for just being a few days ago. And I think it went well. I haven't had any concerns or issues on feedback. It's been positive. We had a great turnout. We had probably 60, 65 here in this room, plus candidates and staff. And so, and then while it was live, we had about 70 devices logged in. So it seemed like it went okay, and I hope that was helpful for the residents to get to know our candidates better. So, and then while we have a few candidates in the room, Kathy sent out an email reminder about your financial reporting. State code mandates that if you do not submit that on time,
You're
you are
disqualified.
disqualified. Unfortunately, that happened to a candidate in Payson a few years ago, and his name was on the ballot, and they could not count his votes. And so people were really frustrated with that because they voted for him and didn't have another option. They felt like they got gypped. And so please get your financial reports turned in before the due date, so.
What is the due date?
Pardon, the 26th.
26th, okay.
First one, and then give another one afterwards.
Don't wait for the last minute, just get it done.
Get her done.
Now-
Adam, one calendaring item is I will not be at the November 1st meeting. We'll be flying back from some
Thank you.
nice place. So we won't get in until later that evening, so just need to make sure we have a quorum.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it to open session to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda. Joe, you'd mentioned that you had something. Do you want to come up and state your name and address, and please?
No.
I'm Joe Martell.
I just want to know, are you still jogging?
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, my goodness. He's an animal.
Yeah, I'm Joe Martell of 267 South, 280 West. This is just a request. I just go through it real quick. I just go through the points that I've handed out in this letter. It's basically to address requesting that Lindon City request that Utah County adopt the Urban Farm Assessment Act. So you're all aware of the Greenbelt Act, which assesses farmland at lower rates, and you have rollback taxes and things like that, but only works for properties greater than 5 acres. The state has also created the Urban Farm Assessment Act a few years ago, I don't know, but it works for farms less than 5 acres. Envision Utah did a study for the, envisioning different aspects of Utah and farm and agriculture. And it's kind of along the lines of the Utah's own. I don't know if you've seen the little sign of Utah creating their own produce, local produce. Basically, in that Envision Utah, there's a great PowerPoint they put, it's on the provo.org site. They recommend that the state and county legislatures seek to expand the Urban Farm Assessment Act, and so that it would also apply to Utah County. The county has to adopt it, the state's farm assessment, Urban Farm Assessment Act. And right now, I'm only aware of Salt Lake, Weber, and Tooele counties having adopted it. I don't know about some of the smaller counties. I couldn't find any information on it. And Tooele just adopted it a couple months ago. Salt Lake's got a big, flourishing urban farm. They have a lot of big projects going on. I provided links there. The reason I'm requesting this is what we're seeing is older farmers desire to downsize and maybe peel off a lot here or there. As soon as they fall below that 5-acre minimum, they're going to fall out of Greenbelt if they're in it right now. One of the things that's really compounded this is about the last year or two, the state revalued many of these agriculture lands. So a 5-acre parcel went from a value of $400,000 to over 1.1 to 1.2 million. So a 250% increase. Most people who are in Greenbelt today don't notice that because they're paying Greenbelt taxes. But as soon as they hit rollback, if they develop and fall below the 5 acres, they'll hit rollback taxes. Now they're going to be valued, have to pay taxes on that 1.1 million, which is about a percent is usually what you figure. So you figure a valuation of $200,000, so each acre is going to end up getting hit by property taxes of $2,000 per year. And that's just agriculture, undeveloped land. The Greenbelt also says that you need to be meeting a production quota, and it's typically around $500 to $700 per acre. Grazed land, orchards, things like that. So you can see there's a huge discrepancy when you fall out that, you've got acreage that's producing maybe $500 to $700 a year, but your property taxes on that are going to be $2,000 per year. So a lot of these farmers, when they develop their ground, they just have to develop the whole thing. And so I'm requesting that maybe the city recommend to the county that the county adopt this Urban Farm Assessment Act, because I think it'll help preserve more green space, more production in ag for these smaller farms as Lindon develops more, and you don't have these big parcels of land.
Do you have any idea how many parcels in Lindon would be impacted by this?
I don't know.
From your own observation?
I looked around and spotted about, just in my area, 3 to 4 5-acre parcels, 5 to 8 acres. And I looked at the tax valuations, and they all went up from like this 400,000 to 1 point whatever million dollars. So I don't know. I was talking to Mike Florence, and he was the one that said, you might want to bring this up to the council and see if we can get the county to move on it.
I'm a little surprised the county hasn't moved on it because this has been in place for a period of time. I know Larry Ellertson talked to me about it some time ago, and I think cities ought to try to see what they can do to help facilitate that, and yet the other side of it is cities, the more taxes we're able to get, the better off we are. So there's that kind of a double-edged sword there, but I think there's at some point that's going to be developed. Right. And maybe there's a softer transition rather than, having a huge farm. You can have a smaller green space that you're doing something good with. So
small can this green space go down to?
I want to say, yeah, I think it's
Go down to 1 acre.
1 acre.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, Salt Lake's doing a lot in this urban farm development area. They've got some big projects out there that they've been doing as well.
I found out about it because Larry mentioned it to me, because I've got a little over 3 acres. It's in a commercial zone. He said, just put some sheep on there, grow some this and do that, and, you know, you qualify. But if the county hasn't enacted it, then obviously you can't take advantage of that. Because the taxes there are just, anyway, it's a lot of money.
I did reach out to the county commissioners and got thanks for your,
Did you talk to all 3 of them?
I sent an email to all 3 of them. I got an email back from one of them, a lady. Amelia,
Pardon?
yes. And that they would look into it, but I haven't heard anything for a couple of months.
Well, I told you I'll follow up with them because I meet with them on a monthly basis on different issues. But I have an audience with them, and I'll just see what they're thinking and then report back to you.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
That's my only request, just
Yeah.
kind of trying to get used to
I like
skids.
the idea, so I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, a little bit of country. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Anyone else here to speak to the council? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Consent agenda items, reappointment of Planning Commissioner Scott Thompson, who's invited everyone to a barbecue.
I don't have that much hope of this being approved, given the announcement that I made a minute ago.
And then the resolution on the disposal of surplus equipment, so that's as listed there. It's a consent agenda item. If you don't have any questions, we can,
I'll make a motion. if
okay,
we-
Randy?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda for this evening.
Second, Jake, any discussion? Okay, call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
That way I
Will
can
you
tell
let Scott
Scott's
know
mom
that?
that I know.
Okay.
Will you let Scott know that we were the ones who approved it? Maybe we can get an invite?
I've got a call on the docket as soon as we get done here.
I know his mom and daddy, so.
Right tips.
Okay, we're gonna go into a discussion item on overview of utility rates and fees.
This is me. So, I had some inquiries from a couple of you that were out knocking doors, I think, for the election, and had some questions come up on utility rates and fees and kind of how we establish these and how they're applied in different areas. So we're gonna go kind of a high level and give you a quick overview, and then hopefully it'll help answer some questions. So, quickly to run through, this is our adopted fee schedule that was adopted in June for our 2021-22 fiscal year. For culinary water, we have a base rate that is based off of the occupancy type, and mostly what I'm going to focus on tonight is just single family. And so single family is the majority of housing units in the city. A few years ago, we got rid of a fee for accessory apartments, so the one base rate fee covers up to 2 units, and so that could be a home and an accessory apartment. And then it is based on the meter size and the water zone. So let me jump to this map. That shows our different water zones in our culinary system. So starting up on the right side of the map, we have a zone that we call the O zone. It's a 0, and then we have a 1A and a 1B and a zone 2 in the blue, and then down below a zone 3. Based on these different zones, the base rate increases as it goes up the hill, so to the right. So the base rate is lower here. The reason it's lower on the west side of town is the tanks are gravity feeding and pushing that pressure out there. In the other areas of town, we have to pump water uphill. And so the base rate is higher primarily to cover those energy costs. It's astounding how much energy is used for some of our big pumps if you look at it through a whole calendar year. And so the engineers, as they do our rate studies, are looking at those electricity costs, but then also the infrastructure, operations and replacement for those pumps, for the lines that are pushing uphill, So if you can envision all of that network, some of these are highlighted here. There's some force mains that are pushing uphill into some of our areas further up the hill. So the neighborhood, sorry, Sean, with the highest base rate is on the bottom right. And so they will see those higher rates on that base. I did have somebody ask, why do we even have a base rate? The best way I can explain this is similar to electricity. We have customers that have demands for water and sewer and storm drainage that they expect it to be there as soon as you flip the switch. When they turn on the faucet, they expect the water to come out and to be clean and treated and ready. When they flush the toilet, they expect it to be taken care of. We have to operate and maintain a system that is ready to go when they flip that switch. Just like power in our room, we pay a base power bill, and whether we're using it or not, we have a small fee, and that is to keep that operational and running and functional so that at the moment's notice, somebody's ready to go. It also includes all of the potential replacement, not all, some of the potential replacement costs. So that base rate is to keep us operational and functional. The usage rate is when you turn it on. So when you turn on the faucet, then you're being billed usage. Does that help?
So in a scenario, let's say someone owns some storage units and they don't use water. They're just a bunch of sheds there. Because they have access to it, because they could, they would pay the base rate, but they wouldn't be paying any usage rate.
If they have a meter that's set and it's connected, yes, they have a base rate.
But if they
So-
don't set a meter,
If there's no meter, I would be shocked if there's no meter. Typically, if a property is developed, they're required to hook up to our system, and I don't know of anywhere that has a developed site plan that doesn't have a meter. So we have a lot of meters on vacant properties. Those are not charged until they construct something. But once you construct something, yeah, you have a base rate.
Imagine on storage units, it's probably just the caretaker's residences.
Might just be a hose or a spigot that's out there, but they likely have those. So a similar thing, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, with our secondary irrigation system. We have different zones that this water is served in. And so in a very similar method, up on the hillside, we got to pay for the water to get pumped up there. Where our water actually enters the system is kind of in the center of town. And so we're collecting it at our Zone 3 reservoir. It's pumping up to Zone 2, which is then pumping up to Zone 1, and then the ozone. And so there are higher costs the further up you're on the hill for your base rates. So jumping back to our fee schedule, let's see. The meter size in those zones in the culinary system that we just talked about, most residential units are going to have a 1-inch meter. And so really that first column is really kind of what we're talking about tonight. So on a 1-inch meter, there's the differences in those base rates. So below the North Union Canal, I'm going to zoom in one more time. Below the North Union Canal, you're looking at $27.96. Above the North Union, $32.46. And those upper foothill areas, $46.80. So then on the usage rate, it is based on the different blocks that we've established is 1,000 gallons. And so in the areas below the canal, $1.67 for 1,000 gallons. Does that sound correct, Juan? Am I saying that right?
Yes, and the blocks are a certain amount of gallons, so for zone.
Yeah, let me jump on to the next page. There we go. So on this next page, so you get actually up to 6,000 gallons on block 1. So you're not going to be charged $2.17 per thousand until you've exceeded 7,000 gallons. Does that make sense? So what we've seen is an average household size, 4 individuals. So Lindon's, based on the census, we're just under 4 people per household. It's like I think it was I haven't seen the new ones. In the old census 10 years ago, it was 3.7, I want to say. Does that sound right? So just under 4, 10 to 12,000 gallons a month is pretty typical. And for a healthy family size is how I would probably phrase that. So for those that are just a single or a couple, they're just a couple thousand a month is not uncommon. So moving on then, so we have our garbage rates, $10.90 for the first can, $9.30 for the second can. In some areas, we have in the Anderson Farms, Ivory Homes development on the west side, we have a groundwater pumping fee, and that is infrastructure that is put in out there. Ivory wanted to have basements when they were doing all their geotech studies. They had a really high water table. They determined if they put in these groundwater collection drains throughout their development and then around the drain or the foundations, that it would help lower the water table, which to date, it looks like that's worked. And so
Not a good year to
that's true,
really be
but
measuring
they've been going for a few years and it looks positive. But we had to put in some infrastructure that the city accepted as part of our new sewer lift station down there. There's some pumps and some collection units, and then the main lines that run down the streets for this groundwater collection system. So that groundwater pumping is just specific to basically on this map, this area in the tan color right there. What else? We've got our recycling fees, $4.25 a can, and as you guys are aware, that does not cover the cost of the can. We've traditionally increased our garbage a little bit so that we can lower our recycling and help incentivize that. We are over 50% take on recycling. In my mind, that is diverting waste away from our landfill, which we are a partner in and paying for, so it's extending the life of our landfill. That's, in my opinion, the best benefit of our residents recycling. There's all the altruistic stuff about recycling. It sounds like, given the market, it may or may not just be going in a landfill somewhere some years, given the commodities pricings. But for us, as a city and a landfill partner, if we can divert it out of the landfill, great. Secondary water, we talked about some of those different zones. This is the fee that was charged to all owners or customers of the secondary system clear back into '93. It was based on lot size. Most of our residential lots are between the $8 and $15 range. 10 is probably the most significant per month. So it's not a base rate. This is the best I can say. This is the membership fee, if I could call it that. This was something that was charged to everybody when they signed up. And our culinary water for years has subsidized our secondary water costs because this fee never has changed. So your culinary rates are higher in Lindon than probably other cities because it's subsidizing the secondary system.
Didn't we I thought we had bumped that $10 up to like $10.60 or $10.30.
Has not changed. So we do have then a metered secondary water base rate that's in the Anderson Farms Ivory Homes development, where as part of their agreement with us, they were going to put in secondary meters. And so they have some infrastructure out there that was put in specific to their development that we have to operate and maintain. And so we have a base rate and fee for them in that area, specific to that metered secondary water meter. And then it also has a usage rate. It's 60 cents per 1,000 gallons. One thing, just as an FYI, over the years, it was interesting in 1991 to 93 when we started the secondary system. Basically, from everything that I've found and heard from other employees, the city essentially said, turn in your water shares, or there was a fee. It was $375 per half acre. And so you either paid the fee or you turned in the shares. Recently, Kathy, we found it looks like an old cigar box full of receipts. And she put it all into a spreadsheet, has all the dates that everybody paid back in 91 to 93. And so we have some good preliminary information that shows how much people paid. There was about 400 of those. So given now that we're pushing close to 3,000 connections, it's a smaller amount of people that were involved at that time, and then those that have moved off or whatever. I don't know how many are remaining, but just a good FYI. What we found, some of what it appears they turned in was only enough to cover their home, their half acre. There were multiple properties, is what it appears, that had an acre or acre and a half or 2 or 3 acres, and they did not turn in enough water share or money to water that other acreage. We're slowly catching up trying to fix that stuff, but we haven't done a citywide audit. That's on the horizon. As Juan and I have talked, that's something that we probably need to do and make sure that those customers aren't watering acres with that original $375 that they paid. And we have information that that's probably occurring in some spots. Not prolific, but there's a few accounts that we need to work on. So, jumping to sewer. So on sewer, there is a base rate, same justification. We got to keep it operational. For single family, it is $21.87, and again, that covers up to 2 units, similar to the water. There is a usage fee on the sewer, and that is based on how many thousand gallons of culinary water are used. For customers that don't have the pressure irrigation system, we average the winter water use from December to March, and that is what they are billed for their sewer usage throughout the rest of the year. And so it's trying to give a break and show that, yeah, they're watering out on their grass or their gardens, it's not going down the sewer drain. So stormwater utility fee is pretty consistent. Every residential unit is paying the same, $10.69. So questions thus far on any of that?
We're not pumping sewer anywhere, are we? It all flows?
No, we do pump sewage in several spots. So all of our sewage is treated by Orem City. So we collect all of our own. We do have a small amount of Lindon that flows through Orem City, and they have a small amount that flows through us. And so we reconcile that at the end of every fiscal year. So in general, our low point on this map is down by Harley-Davidson. So we actually have an outfall. Everything collects down to this point. So from the west side of town, it's flowing back this way. And from here, it's obviously all coming downhill. But we do have everything pretty much from about, I'm going to say about 8th west maybe, is being...
Center Street north, it all goes to lift station number 7.
So it's flowing all of this area out in here, and all of this is flowing out to that lift station. So it's going to the west, and then it all has to be pumped back to that outlet, that outfall.
Are we charging pumping costs for that?
That is worked into that base rate. So there are pumping fees associated with that. So this map, I just wanted to show you what I've started this year. Heather, our utility billing clerk, and we've selected about 40 parcels around town. They're a little bit hard to see. It's this light tan or gold color. We tried to get these residential units in different areas of town and different household types, townhomes. We've got a couple twin homes. We've got an apartment unit, and then most of them are single family, and I've selected a few of your homes. And so there's a lot of people that I know in Lindon, so I've tried to look at different household sizes and get a good mix. So we took those 40 units and plugged them all into this spreadsheet, and the average bill, this is not power, Lindon doesn't deal with power, this is all of those things we talked about, water, sewer, storm, garbage, pressure irrigation, the average out of these 40 that we've looked at is about $130 a month. There are some higher users and some lower users. This one I excluded. It's kind of an anomaly. That was just a partial month on that very first one. But a couple I want to identify. When we got this question, the inquiry about some of the bills, it was primarily from those that live in our Fieldstone Homes development, which does not have secondary irrigation. So interestingly, we have an employee that lives in that development, and I'm going to click on this, see if it'll work. They are right here in the Fieldstone development. And so look at their lot is very similar to others in the neighborhood. And then the other one we're going to look at is one of these right here. So this one, they actually have almost $100 less on their usage versus this other one here. So just kind of keep those parcels in mind. So on this individual that works for Lindon City, their bill, and this was August usage. So this was a higher water usage month, $137. Another one in that neighborhood, it was more than 100 difference, $343. Wow. Neither one of them has secondary water. The person that lives and works here for the city, they've told us that they've put on their own smart monitoring device, and they're cautious about their water usage.
They're the 343?
They are the 137.
Oh.
And so another household in that neighborhood, $343.
Do you have a swimming pool?
Same size house, similar sized family. The yard is actually smaller on the one that spent more.
No swimming
So
pool.
what I want to convey with this is the biggest differential component is usage, and whether somebody is careful or not on their usage. The base rates are all the same, it's all usage. And so what's interesting out there, so you look at that $137 that this household here used or was charged, $137. There's a lot of areas in town that have secondary irrigation. Most of these do. So the secondary pressure irrigation, that column that says pressure, any of those that have a dollar amount have secondary water. So that's that $15 or $10 they're being billed based on their acreage. So the ones that don't have secondary are blank. So I just thought it was interesting that their household, and it's pretty consistent through several months of usage, that they're similar to billings that are being applied to people that do have secondary, and they're using culinary outdoors. So another one that I found interesting, pull this one up.
I wonder if we could do something similar to what Utah Power does, or Rocky Mountain Power. Your neighbor. Where they send out just a notice, just how you compare.
I'll show you something. We have that actually on our utility bill.
I think that would be just a wake-up call, make people aware of it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I would guess most people aren't.
So this is one that's in the Green Valley condominiums. These are twin homes, and so they do have an upstairs and a basement, and some of them have families living in them. We know that, but I think originally it was intended that this was kind of a senior housing development. So that is actually one of the highest ones on this list. And so again, they have this tiny postage stamp little area of lawn that has secondary, yet their culinary water amount is really high based on their usage. And I'm saying really high comparative to these others. It doesn't appear that they have a leak or anything like that. But so I thought those two were interesting, that lot size doesn't necessarily mean cost there. And then this other one that is the highest out of these 40 that we picked, it's actually kind of up by Mayor Acerson's neighborhood. And it is right in this location. So this is unique. This is one of the people that chose not to sign up for the secondary system in 1993. They didn't want to pay the fee. And we have about 100 of those properties around town. And so they have secondary in the street, and for them to hook up, they would have to turn in shares or the equivalent cost of those shares. So they actually are out of those 40 that we picked, they are the highest dollar amount for that month. Not the highest in the city, but out of these 40. So that 390.
Are they the original homeowners to that property?
I don't know the answer to that. So.
It would have been much less for them if they had just done the secondary.
Yeah. And again, that dollar amount should be similar to some of their neighbors, but for that secondary, they don't have, and so they're paying a lot for watering outdoors. But we're seeing others that don't have secondary that it's manageable, and they can maintain a nice yard and lawn if they're a little more careful. And so just a few things that I thought were interesting I wanted to bring to your attention. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at this in summer months and then winter months and continue to kind of watch this average of these 40 lots. But it looks like citywide average is about 130 a month for city utilities. I did have a question on equal bill pay, and we currently do not offer equal bill pay. There was a time I understood that the city did, and they discontinued that. There's a few other cities that do offer this, and so I've just kind of explained here how it works. I'm going to let you read through that. That's in your staff report. Some pros and cons of that as we looked at it and talked with our own utility clerk who came to us from Mapleton, and then in talking with a few other cities. Pros, the utility bill's the same every month, and so they take an amount and they average it. Some cities are averaging once a year, several of them are doing it twice a year. It limits those potential unforeseen increases. In the summer billing months, power goes up and water usage goes up, and so people freak out about high utility bills on that first May, June, July, those bills. And it's interesting how many people say, the city raised our rates. Well, you didn't. It's just they've used more. And so in that May, June, July billing, those rates haven't taken effect even if you did approve it in a new budget. So
Incrementally, how much additional work is that for staff to do the budget billing?
it could be significant. So that's one of the cons that we've listed here, is that we have to then babysit those. We have to recalculate the averages, whether it's once or twice a year. One thing that our clerk mentioned in Mapleton, which is a very affluent area, I would say that's similar to Lindon. She said it increased the amount of delinquencies that occurred because people were less likely to pay attention to their usage. And then when they reset the average, if they used more than their average amount, they had a balance due. And so they'd have several $100s that they had to pay, and a lot of people would be frustrated with that. And so that's the biggest downside, I think, is that for a community where we're hopeful that people will pay attention to their water usage and self-regulate, if they average it, they may not be paying attention closely to that usage because it's the same amount every month. It does, in the cities that have it, it does show the usage. It says, here's what you would have been billed and what you're being credited or not, or you owe. So our current clerk was begging me, please don't implement this. And so I just wanted to give you the FYI on that, let you review it. So,
Yeah, quite honestly, I go through this every year with my power bill, and typically July, August, and sometimes into September, they're pretty high. But I know that, and I have an added level of focus on trying to reduce it. So I think, it can be pro and con. It can work both ways, and anyway.
I threw into the staff report just an FYI, and you guys have seen these before. We've contracted with JUB engineers in the past, and this year we're bringing it in-house, last year we brought it in-house for our city engineers to update our utility rate study. A lot of work goes into this. We're forecasting costs for operations and replacement and then capital improvements out several years. And so we're doing this on water, on sewer, on our stormwater funds, on our groundwater collection, on all of those different utilities. And I'm just gonna skim through this. There's a lot of data. I just pulled out a few of the graphs that were on those different water meter sizes and how they calculate some of those, and then the sewer. So I'm not gonna spend any time on those, but you can see that there's a lot of data that goes into it. All of that data then is spitting out, here's what your rate should be, that we then bring to you and we adopt in that rate fee schedule. And then what we're looking at is, I've highlighted, you guys have seen this before, our summary of our fund balances. So where my bottom line is where I'm focusing on is where we have in our fund balances. So in water, we have a healthy fund balance. This is projected that will end this fiscal year with that $2.5 million. In addition to that, we've been putting money away for the future tank that we need, so we have some money there, and a future well that we need, we have some money there. Sewer.
That's not reflected in the 2.5?
That is not reflected in the 2.5. So this is unassigned fund balance, and so we can apply this to other projects, or to have that in emergency needs. We've got a lot of future projects that will eat that up fast. So this one's making me nervous. Sewer, we are projecting will end this fiscal year with $116,000. Doesn't carry us very far at all. We backed off some projects and things that we were looking at. We still have this year a healthy amount of $300 and some thousand in slip lining in some sewer areas that we have some infiltration coming in. So we have good projects this year. But even though we have those base rates, we don't have anything else assigned anywhere else other than this. And so I know somebody floated in a prior discussion, we should look at decreasing utility rates. We can't. In some of these areas, that would be the wrong way to go, in my opinion. Our hope and our goal is that these utility enterprise funds are self-sufficient, that they're not subsidized by other taxes. And so garbage, we've tried to keep that pretty neutral, so not having a fund balance there is positive. We don't want to make money off of this. We're just trying to cover costs. And then stormwater, when I started as the administrator, was in a $500,000 deficit. And so we've made good headway there, and we have several million in potential projects that need to be done in the next 20 years. And so we're looking positive in that area. Sewer is what's concerning to me right now. And then again, just kind of reflecting some of those numbers in the budget. I was all over the place. I'm gonna just take a few more quick minutes. I want to share with you, I did my best to white it or black out stuff, and it still came through on the copy. So I blacked out the names of these. These were actually, a few of these city bills were ones that got returned where somebody's moved or something else. And so I just pulled them out of a stack, but we've got a good mix. This one is a single family usage. So we do have, on the bills, there's this little chart that shows these numbers off on the side are in thousands of gallons. And this is one that there's a few unique things. You can see this one has a $30 charge on Utopia. That was something years ago when Utopia started. They worked with the cities to collect the costs of putting a lateral up to the house. They don't do that anymore. So anybody that signs up new isn't being billed. This is kind of a
It's a legacy.
yeah, the legacy fee that's on some properties in town. Some other unique things here. So they've got one garbage, one recycling can, and then I'll buzz through a few of these others. This is another single family usage. This one was pretty good to see that spike that occurs in water usage in the summer months and then trickles back down. They had a few really high usage amounts, and this one in particular I was curious on. Every year in those same months they had really high usage, being in that 14,000 gallon range. This is a house that's not far from Carolyn Lundberg's neighborhood in a newer Ivory home. This is one that, from all appearances, has a good-sized family, and so kind of typical of that sort of household. But so some things, 2 garbage cans there, if you'll note, no recycling. And then this is one that they kicked into the different tiered water usage rates. And so they maxed out their 6,000 gallons, and then it kicks them into that second tier. And just as a reminder, the state legislature required that cities had to adopt a tiered water system so that the more you use, the more you pay. Ours is very incremental. It's not significant jumps, but just an FYI. This is one that's in that Green Valley twin homes, those condominiums. This specific bill, the individual didn't pay and was behind, and they had a reconnect fee. They got disconnected, which is $55. But absent of that $55, it's $107 was their bill. So compared to some of those bigger houses, $168.
So on our schedule, it says $50 reconnect. Why is it 55?
I will have to check on that. I don't have an answer for that off the top of my head.
It does show $50 as a reconnect. Anyway.
I'll have to look, yeah. I think there, and I could be wrong, Mayor, but I think there's a notification fee before the
Could be.
connect.
I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah. This is one that's out in the senior, they're smaller homes in the senior Anderson Farm section, and they're pretty much all developed now, and so their build just started when they moved in. They're using 4,000 gallons-ish a month. So they're never going over that first tier of water, so likely just 1 or 2 persons in that household. But then to note, so they have that groundwater pumping fee, then they have the metered pressure irrigation. On their metered pressure irrigation, they're paying, what, $13 a month? And they don't have, I'm sorry, they do have the $8 pressure irrigation, the membership fee, as I'm calling it, so. What else? So here's a few others. This was one of the twin homes in Anderson Farms, around $100, similar fees. What's interesting on theirs, they don't have the membership fee on the pressure irrigation because the association pays that. And so on these units, they don't have a secondary meter on every unit. It's just the common area. And so why I wanted to show a few of these, every single house is different. For somebody out in Fieldstone to say, I'm not paying the same as Joe Baloney that lives over on 400 East. Well, of course you're not, because there's all of these different variations. And so for us to even look at the same household sizes, it's not going to be the same. And so it's a complicated building system where you've got different zones for pressure, different zones for culinary, and different areas for some fees that don't have other fees. It's a hard thing to keep up with. This was an industrial tenant in kind of a multi-unit strip mall type of complex in our industrial zone. They're about $134 a month. And then what I did is I asked a few of our employees that lived in different cities, give me your bills. And so a lot of cities have power, which we don't. So without power, this one in Payson, $126 a month. And this was a 6-person household that may or may not be named. And then Lehigh, this is a 2-person household, $100 a month when you back off the power. Spanish Fork, this is a single mother with a couple kids, $114 a month. But interestingly, Spanish Fork has their own internet. And so this would be similar to like our Utopia fee, $45. That's a little bit hard to see. Springville, this was interesting. So in Springville, the next 2 that we'll look at, one has culinary and one does not. Or excuse me, one has pressure irrigation and one does not. So this property, this household, they do not have pressure irrigation available to them. And they were without the electric about $126. And then this household in Springville does have secondary, and they were on equal pay, but looking at what they would have been charged and backing off the power, They're about 100. So not a drastic difference, but again, that issue of not having secondary isn't unique to Lindon in some areas of town, but.
Two quick questions.
Yeah.
I can think of a reason or two why someone might want a larger, but can a residential, single-family residence have larger than a 1-inch line?
They can,
If they choose?
if they chose to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, most of that is just based on anticipated water usage, and so,
I think there's reasons why.
yeah, in some of the larger office buildings or businesses, manufacturing locations, they'll have bigger lines. I don't know that that's really common, but I'm sure there is a few that might have a 1.5 or something.
Do you have any idea what the association fees are for the Ivory?
I don't. Yeah,
Just wondering, because that's got to factor in too,
yeah.
got to add that to the bill too.
Bottom line, we carefully look at this. We have a very detailed utility rate study that we go through every year. Our goal is to keep our operations, maintenance, and replacement flush, that we have funds there. Some cities recently with bond rates, the interest rates are really good right now. Orem recently chose not to choose the pay-as-you-go method, and they're bonding for some of their bigger projects this year, with the thought that even with the interest and the smaller payments that they would make each year may be better than incrementally trying to save. It really depends on the infrastructure that you're putting in and the costs associated there. I don't, in my opinion, I don't see anything unfair, quote, in Lindon. I think there's a lot of variations for a city our size. There may be some ways for us to standardize some things. That membership fee kind of that I've talked about, that why we never rolled it into the base rate, I don't know. That's something that we could look at. We do get questions on that occasionally of why am I paying this pressure irrigation thing and I'm paying a base rate for my secondary meter. In that new Ivory development, they've had some questions. Any questions from you guys? I hope that was helpful. Just wanted to give that high level overview and okay.
It's a good review. Appreciate it, Alex.
Yeah, I think as complicated as our system is, it's the focus is to be fair and charge the appropriate fees for the areas in which people are getting the service. And I think going through this extensive analysis as often as we do not only allows us to make sure our funds are in balance, but it also allows us the opportunity to have that in-depth discussion if we need it. Yeah. It isn't something we just do haphazardly, which I've always appreciated Lindon doing, so.
Anything you want to bring up? No?
Well, I appreciate the fact that it doesn't, in looking at this, the citizens need to be confident that this is not an opportunity for somebody being subsidized by another. It's very specific to each site, that they have not only control of their own, but they're not helping to pay for somebody else's. We've made it very site-specific for each particular homeowner and their particular needs. And if they would like their bill to go down, they need to perhaps take a look at their own usage and see where to start there.
Yes, I agree.
With that being said, though, I would really look forward to an audit on some of these legacy kind of.
The legacy customers, yeah.
On those customers.
And we've mentioned, if the state mandates the secondary meters or we're putting them all in or whatever happens with that, if we go that direction, we've talked about potential where we shift and decrease culinary rates, but then increase some of that secondary cost. And so that could be part of that big picture, but we're a ways from that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking about the secondary. I've got a lot that I've had secondary and haven't used 1 ounce of secondary water on it for years, so there may be some that are using it.
Yeah, and others that aren't.
But there may be some others that are not, so.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the analysis may come back well, we're within reason, but I think it's appropriate to check it out and see, so.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? We good? Okay, item number 9, review and action on Alpine School District School Resource Officer. Here we go again.
This, you know what, this is just something I'm thankful is happening, and so Chief Brower and Chief Adams was working on it, and the district kind of missed it for a couple years. You guys may remember we brought it up with them a couple years ago in a joint meeting. They finally came up with an agreement. Brian's reviewed it. We're comfortable with this. They've already signed it. This would reimburse the city $16,500 a year to offset our costs for our resource officer at Oak Canyon Junior High. So.
When does this start?
I knew the answer to that question, and I don't remember offhand, Jake. I think it is this year,
Yeah, there was a point in time when
the term.
we approached them and they said, well, it's not in our budget, but I'm glad to see that we've finally had that
It
discussion.
is, it is this fiscal year is what we were doing at July 1st of 2021.
That's just at Oak Canyon. Is that Officer
That-
Campbell who's going up to Oak Canyon?
Yes, he is
And
going to all the schools.
He's going to all of them, but it's
Yeah.
specifically Oak Canyon that we're being reimbursed for.
Correct.
Do we anticipate ever being reimbursed for the elementary schools, or do we consider that a public service?
In the agreement, Brian, I don't think it did for
It
elementary.
didn't.
It is only secondary.
In working
And
with
so-
him, just on my perspective, that's where
The need
vast
is.
majority of his time,
Yeah.
his focus is at the junior high.
Let me just
The-
skim that really
all of
quick.
the issues that he has to address, besides teaching the,
Nova.
is that the name of it?
Nova.
Nova.
I'll make a
Let me
motion.
find that.
go for
I
it.
think
This
this
goes
was
for
only
5 years
for,
then.
yeah, so in this, there was 35,000 for high school, 16,500 for middle or junior high. And they do not have anything for elementary.
I think this is good. I think it's prevention, and I'd much rather be doing prevention than,
And it's a great opportunity for the young people to have those good interactions with, especially Officer Campbell. Before that was Officer Lloyd. We've got great personnel that takes care of our youth.
Well, it's been expected and we haven't been getting anything back, so this is a good
This is
step
just
forward.
plus, yeah.
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion.
please.
I move to approve the Alpine School District School Resource Officer cooperation agreement as presented.
second.
I have a motion by Randy, a second by Jake. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And I turned over my page and there's nothing on it. So Van, are you gonna?
Motion to adjourn.
There he is.
Okay, we have a second by Randy. All in favor?
Aye.
Not too shabby.
No, had it not been for Adam, we would have been, no.
Easy.
Doing his job, he did it well.
27.
That was good. Great report.
Oh, hang on just a second here.
Some juicy details for us. Are we invited now?
I'll make a few calls.
I'm just kidding.
I have some friends.
Jake, you can have mine, I was invited.
Oh, my.